Good morning, Kelly Diels. I would love it if you would share with us your definition of the patriarchy.
Patriarchy to me is a gendered system of oppression and hierarchy.
Hi, everybody. I am so glad you're here, and I am beyond excited and thrilled to be interviewing one of my mentors. Honestly, somebody I've looked up to for many years, and I'm just thrilled to be here with Kelly Diels. Kelly Diels is a feminist business educator. She's the founder and originator of feminist copywriting and feminist social media certification programs that are amazing. Hi, Kelly.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yes, I am so grateful you're here. I am Elijah Selby, and I am coming to you today from the unceded territory of the Ohlone, which is San Francisco, California. Where are you today, Kelly?
I am on the traditional and unceded territories of the Stolo Nations, otherwise known as Chilliwack, BC in Canada.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's start with talking about that, because that is something that a lot of us are seeing out there. I don't think it's mainstream yet. This idea of talking about where the land is that we're speaking from. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about why that's important.
I say this at the beginning of all my workshops and events and co-working sessions and anything I do in a group setting. I acknowledge where I'm located in the world. And the reason I specifically acknowledge the Stolo Nations is because I want to give tribute and honor to the custodians of this land, present and past. And I really want to emphasize present. And the other reason I do it is because I want to remind us that none of us have been born into a culture of justice. So when I am saying we have been born into stolen land, no matter who you are, we are occupying stolen land. I want that to sort of register in our systems that we haven't been born into justice. And here's the important part. Well, that is actually really important. But the next step is we don't have to co-sign that. We do not have to let that flow through our bodies and our bodies of work. And we can use our lives, our voices, our business practices to shift our culture towards justice and make sure crimes like that are no longer possible. And I don't want us to only aim for some hypothetical future where we all flourish. I want us to flourish right now. So I say that because that's literally the foundation, that's the takeoff point for all of our work. And then the other thing that I think is important to acknowledge when we're opening a group space is to acknowledge who we are and what our orientation and perspective is. So I usually want to say something like, I'm a feminist educator, and here's what I mean by feminist. Just as you asked us, what does patriarchy mean?
Yeah.
So what I mean by feminist to me is a practice and an ethic in which we aim to end all forms of oppression. So
Yes.
I am here to dismantle systems that limit and oppress us. I am not only looking through the lens of what happens to women in this world. I am looking through the lens of systems of dominance and hierarchy and how they are destroying the planet, they are destroying our lives, and how can we live into something differently? So that's not the mainstream version of feminism. I think that's the pure heart of feminism, which is about equity and justice. But like the pop culture magazine version of feminism is just like, let's be a little more successful at work.
Correct. Yes, exactly. And as we both know, that's most often the image we get and that's conjured up when that's talked about is white women.
Right. So that's the kind of feminism that's been labeled white feminism, which doesn't mean every white feminist. It means a version of feminism that doesn't take account for white supremacy and doesn't have that built into its analysis. And it's also the version of feminism that we sometimes call like boss babe or girl boss, like that version of like lean in, go entrepreneurial feminism. Just you get more of what you need and screw everyone else. That's not the feminism that you and I are talking about.
100%. And I'm getting an echo. Hello? Okay, that's better. All right. I don't know if you heard the echo. Thank you, everybody. Great. Okay, so I love this. One of the reasons, actually the main reason I wanted to have this conversation with you is your work around the female lifestyle,
Empowerment brand.
empower. I always forget the E, empowerment brand. It's so important. And we're going to get to that. So I just want to pause and say, my inner self, higher wisdom, source energy, whatever you want to call it, I got the download to do this podcast as an idea because I really see that business can be used as a form of social change. And I want people to start looking at, hey, we've been doing business in these messed up ways. We're not even aware of them because we're plugged into the system. We're plugged into the matrix. But let's lift the veil. Let's look at like the effed up ways we're doing business, how those ways are causing harm, and then how we can do better. Because I am such a believer that when we do this in business, we literally are changing the world. I think it's a big jump that I make. I can see all the connections in my brain as like, when we do things differently, the world changes. And I believe that with all my heart. And I've seen it. I've seen how things change when people are doing business in a way that feels like more in integrity with themselves.
Right. So there's two things I'm thinking about here. So one is I'm thinking about the Oprah show when she gave away cars, and she's like, and you get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car, and how exciting and thrilling it was. Mm-hmm. But what it did to me on the other end of that was like, oh, I can't wait until I have so much money and clout that I can do things like that. And that's when I will be, advocating for change and helping people change their lives. And when I have that level of power and clout, that I can give away cars and houses and change people's lives in one dramatic swoop. The problem with that is it makes it seem like we have to wait to be change makers until we have those things. And what I want us to note is we can use the things we've got right now. No matter how little it is, we can always use it in an ingenious way and leverage it to create things, including different results in our own lives and collectively. And even the research shows that the people who give the most amount of money to philanthropic organizations is poor and middle class people disproportionately give more than wealthy people do. So I just want to note that it's the little things that add up across time that really make a difference. And so what that does is then makes us look at our own lives and look for our sources of power. So I may not have Oprah's level of fame and clout and money, but what I do have is social media. Even if I have 100 followers on social media and like 1/3 of them are physically related to me, I have a way to make media and shift culture. I have the conversations in my daily life. I have my relationships. And yes, I have my work practices. If I work at a job, the way I orient in that job and the conversations I have can shift things around me. If I start a recycling club at work, I am making change and I'm shifting the culture around me. So we can make a really big difference in our lives and the ripple effect across other people's lives with the little things that add up across time. And really that is how change happens. So that's like the first thing I want to note. And the second thing I want to note, and here I want to cite my friend C.V. Harquail, who wrote a book called Feminism, A Key Idea for Business. But entrepreneurs have the ability to create institutional change because we are literally running institutions. That's what we're building with our businesses. Is we are building a business that is an institution and possibly an institution of the future. And we have carte blanche. We can decide every single policy and practice that in that business, and nobody can tell us no. So we have the ability to create institutional justice by deciding what our policies and practices are and baking justice into them.
So baking justice into your business is a phrase that I hear from you that is truly one of my favorite things that I think about daily in my business. How can I bake justice in? And I want to just reflect on something that you said. The small acts that we do are actually how change happens. And I was listening to you and I was just thinking, yeah, I believe that. I see that. I think, you could probably pull up actual examples for us of like how this happens. But the thought that occurred to me is like, gosh, that just isn't sexy, is it? Like we want to give the cars. And the reason I'm saying that is for the last, I don't know, 15 years, Is that how long social media? I don't know, since I've been on social media. I have several times a year, and then I do this in my newsletter. I do it with my clients. I say kindness is our superpower. This is something I say all the time. Kindness is our superpower. It truly is how you can change the world. If you feel disempowered and like you can't create change, just go out there and smile at people. Just go out there and be kind, because you'll feel better. They'll feel better. It's a ripple effect. It's a small thing. And I want you to know, every time I write that newsletter, and I've done it multiple times, every time I do that social media post, barely anybody comments. And it's so interesting to me, which is fine. I'm going to keep saying it, but
Yeah, I just keep saying same thing over and over again. I'm not really that hooked on how many people comments, like how many people comment or what immediate feedback there is, because we're playing the long game here.
Thank you.
Right? Like, it doesn't matter in the next 15 minutes what someone says about my social media post, but that idea did resonate with someone. And often people with whom it resonates don't even ever give us that feedback on that post, but they email us 2 years later to say, I decided XYZ and here's the impact it had on me. Right. Okay, or they don't email us and they just sally forth and like do the things that they're going to do. So I want us to unhook a little bit from praise and looking for those external sources of validation. And the paradoxically, when we unhook from praise, we also unhook from like unnecessary, damaging criticism of our work, and it doesn't hurt us as much. And I think that's Tara Moore who put that out there in her book, Playing Big, is we have to unhook from praise so that we also can immunize ourselves against like intellectually dishonest or vicious critique. I'm not talking about hearing feedback that's legitimate and integrating it. I'm talking about immunizing ourselves against disingenuous, cruel critique.
Right, which is, we're not often getting like constructive critiques on the internet like that. Right. Like I can get them from my friends and from my colleagues, but that's not generally happening on social media. So I love that. Thank you so much. That's
critique
feels really important.
In some kind of like analysis, meaning that okay, here's the analysis and it's got nothing to do with you and I'm not going to tear you to pieces. I'm just going to say, and it's real constructive critique comes with the idea that I want to make you better. Not that I want you to disappear, but I actually see something worth improving. So it comes from a place of generosity. Constructive critique comes from a place of generosity, or it comes from a place of relationship. And we can hear it because we trust the giver.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I love that so much. And I mean, I think that one of your geniuses, honestly, is being able to step back, analyze a situation, and come to it with a really thoughtful response. Again, something I really admire in you. And I think a skill I'm building, and it feels like a skill that's maybe lacking for a lot of people. I'm just thinking now about the business place as a whole, where we can be pretty knee-jerk with our reactions, even if we don't like how people are rather extreme or can be rather extreme on social media. What's interesting is I can see how that kind of infiltrates our lives. Whereas like, I may be like, oh, I'm super against trolls or whatever. But then what if I see a post, and I'm going to own that I'm sure I've done this, that I don't like what somebody's saying, and I just am super dismissive and kind of catty. I mean, I just am noticing like, okay, that's a way, like, let's step back, let's analyze the situation, and let's come to it from a place that's really grounded. Not that I have to comment on everybody's social media posts, but.
Yeah. I mean, I also want to return to something that you said about like the big dramatic, and I said this too, like the big dramatic gestures are super seductive, right? Like wanting to have those big impacts. And then you said it's kind of not sexy to think of like it's small things across time that add up to change. But I actually think it's massively inspiring, because if you think about like, wow, it's the small things that add up to real change, then you can do small things right this minute. Like you said, you can go out and smile at people. You can go and look at your sales page and take out any unnecessary coercion or shame tactics. Right? You actually have massive amounts of power. And you can do things right now. You don't have to wait for permission. You don't have to wait till you have more money. You don't have to wait till you have more followers. You can do it right now just because it's your principle and it aligns. So to me, I actually get super excited about the fact that it's small things across time, because I can do small things across time and I don't have to wait, and I don't have to have permission, and I don't even need more resources than I have. So that to me is when I say we are the culture makers.
Yep.
I want to remind us just how significant we are and just how much power we have.
Amen.
And I even have like a story about this. So, and it speaks to the trolling piece and even our own personal knee-jerk reactions to check other people. So here is something that happened to me. I think it was 2016. I was posting a lot about Black Lives Matter. It is a deep and important issue to me and has been for a long time. I am married to a Black man. I have biracial children, some of whom present as Black, some of whom look racially ambiguous. And so for me as a white woman, what that means is I have a ringside seat, a daily ringside seat to all the bananas racist bullshit that they have to endure. And so I see things that as a white woman, I would never otherwise be privy to on a daily basis. And so it's important to me. It is deeply important to me. It is important to me on principle because it's a system of hierarchy and domination that is illegitimate and needs to end. White supremacy needs to end. And then it has a heightened personal thing because these are the people I love, right? And I see it every single day. Yeah. And because of that, I was posting a lot about Black Lives Matter and I was raising a lot of consciousness. And I was also talking a lot about Islamophobia in the run up, in Trump's election. And I'm in Canada, but a lot of this stuff was like showing up in my Facebook feed with people in my own circle. And so I was raising consciousness. I wasn't going on their profiles and saying things. I was doing it on my profile because that's where I have the most control. People can delete my comments other place and then I lose all that intellectual energy, but I can do it on my own. So one of my friends who had been my best friend in high school and who's been a friend of mine for 30 years, reached out to me and like called me up and basically decided to correct me. And it wasn't just her, it was her and another one of my friends, someone who had been my boyfriend in high school. So the two of them got together to like stage an intervention with me. And they're like, Kelly, you're too angry and you are alienating us and, blah, blah, blah. And basically the overall thing, and one of my aunts also at the same time was doing the same thing to me. Their thing was, I'm too angry, I'm too political, I'm talking too much about Black Lives Matter, I need to stop. And there was even like tears, the white woman cried about how upset she was with me. And I was like, okay, you can have all your feelings and I am going to continue doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. So that was like 2016. Fast forward 3 years, and both of them, including, and also my aunt, who separately was trying to check me, are now posting all these like anti-Trump, pro-diversity, pro-Black Lives Matter stuff. And I don't think it was performative. I genuinely think that what happened across time was their perspective changed. Yeah. And why did their perspective change? Because me and other people in their world were constantly putting these ideas forward. And there was articles and it was in the zeitgeist. So there was a proliferation of material that shifted their perspective that I couldn't shift in an argument. So we're not going to win one-off arguments because people's defenses are up and they're going to guard their position and they're going to feel like their identity is being attacked and you're judging them. Yeah. But across time, if you don't give up and you keep putting those ideas out there and everyone around you is putting those ideas out there, what happens is we change the culture around people. And what happens, we know that culture shapes us. So if we change the culture around people, they then they change. And also we can sometimes see ourselves in the mirror. And we had talked about the female lifestyle empowerment brand. That's meant to be a mirror that we look into and we see ourselves and we decide what we want to change and what we don't want to change. It's not meant to be a weapon that you go use against someone else and force them to change. Now, I want us to collectively up-level our justice practices. And I know that the little things across time, putting out the ideas day in and day out, whether or not people pick them up in that moment, I know it does have an impact. But I can't do it by myself. So that's why I need all the other culture makers who have 100 people on Instagram following them to be putting those ideas out. So that's how we make change.
That's right.
We keep putting those ideas out there collectively, little bit by little bit by little bit, we fill the cup up with water. Yeah. And that is how we change things around people, and then people change.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And thank you for saying it so beautifully and so perfectly. And then we're gonna get into the female empowerment lifestyle brand in one moment, but I want I want to pull out something that I just feel is a tool that you just gave us, a tool for when somebody, especially close to us, like your friend and your aunt and your ex-boyfriend, come to us and don't agree with us. And what I saw as the tool that you used, this is my words, is like you held space for them to be themselves. You didn't try and change their mind in that moment. You said, you do what you got to do. I am going to keep doing what I'm going to do. And again, like I have seen firsthand, people have that kind of reaction from people that they love to what they're posting, and then they spin out, right? Because it does feel really hard. So I'm just saying the tool is how I'm hearing it and how I'm framing it for myself is like, those people, they can do what they want to do. I can still love them, but I'm going to keep doing my thing. So there's like a little bit of a healthy detachment there that felt really powerful to me.
Yeah. And I don't want to be too precious about it and act like I didn't privately cry and grieve and be like,
oh yeah,
super angry about it. And I don't want to act like I didn't act with anger in that conversation, because I 100% did. Right. So I don't want to act like I'm this saint and like I just had this healthy detachment and it didn't impact me. I was so upset and angry and reviewing the relationship, like what is going on?
Okay.
So that was definitely happening. But I really did anchor into, I am not going to shift.
Awesome.
You can own your own reactions, and I am going to continue on this path. And you can come along or you can't, like whatever it is. Yeah, that really was like, I am not going to be moved. And it's because I am 100% grounded in, this is my vision. This is the mission. This is what needs to change. And I'm going to do it no matter what.
Yeah.
Whether or not I get a like on Facebook, whether or not I lose a friend, I'm going to carry on. I didn't unfriend them. I didn't block them because I wanted to keep influencing them, but I was not going to be influenced back.
I love that. And I still see that as a tool. And yes, thank you for acknowledging, of course you were angry and upset. Yeah.
Right. There's another piece too. This is a little bit more intimate, but I have a sister who I don't talk to and haven't talked to for years. And because in front of my biracial children at a Christmas lunch, said a bunch of racist nonsense. And I checked her and I made a problem and there was a huge issue and I left. And I literally said, like, I will never put my children in your company ever again. I will not subject my children to this. This will never happen again. And I hold that boundary really firmly. So although we can have healthy detachment and keep some people in our lives, there's some people that have to be at a distance to us because they are not safe. So this person is not safe to be around my children. I'm not going to just practice like healthy detachment and stay in relationship with her. No. I am going to protect and hold my boundaries really firmly. So sometimes it's healthy detachment. Maybe it's people who can exist a few layers out from our inner circle. And sometimes we have to have a healthy boundary that says, you're not allowed close to me and mine.
Right.
Under those circumstances.
Yep. And that does feel really different.
Yeah.
Yes. I hear that and feel that. And I'm sad to hear that, actually.
Well, thank you. You know, I'm sad about it too. And both of those things are about boundaries though.
Yes, they are.
In order to be close to me, you have to demonstrate a certain thing. You need to prove that you can come in through this door and not tear up the space.
Love it. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Let's, in a totally awkward way, segue into the female lifestyle empowerment brand, because this is such an important conversation. And I am coming to this. I love what you have written about it. I think you're writing a book. I can't wait to read it. So I really resonate with what you've pointed out. And so I think this is such an important conversation for anybody that's listening. Honestly, if you feel that you see yourself in some of this, it is not a judgment at all. At all. This is meant, and I'm not going to speak for you, but I have a feeling you feel something like it's meant from a place of like, can we lovingly please stop doing this because we're causing harm?
Yeah, and we're causing harm externally.
Yeah.
We're propping up systems of oppression. We are
Yes.
leveraging systems of oppression to sell our stuff.
Yep.
And I swear to you, we are doing harm to ourselves.
I believe it. No, I think we are too. Yes.
So what I think the female lifestyle empowerment brand is, and I'm sure that anyone could close their eyes and picture it, but
Mhm.
it's the Instagram feed with the woman posing in a maxi dress in front of the Eiffel Tower. It is the woman who is super feminine, long wavy hair, almost always white, thin, young, heteronormative, pretty,
Mhm.
but not too pretty, sexy, but not too sexy, and always smiling and likable, telling us that just because she did it, you too can do it. And for $2,000, you can buy the system.
Mhm.
Now, there is no I don't have any problem with charging a fee for your services or your formulas. That's totally on point. That is legit. We live in a capitalist society. Like, we actually need to thrive and receive compensation for our expertise and our brilliance. But what is actually being sold with all of those things is reassurance that straight women can
Mhm.
still be attractive to men, even if they have careers and power.
Mhm.
It is heteronormativity, it is white supremacy, it is fat phobia, it is thin privilege, it is ableism, it is all of those things. What we are doing is telegraphing statuses of privilege
Mhm.
in lieu of leadership. And this is the way the human brain works. Every human brain on the planet reads statuses of privilege as authority and leadership. And what happens
Oof.
to us internally, subconsciously, way below the level of consciousness, when
Mhm.
we see those things, we activate into obedience mode. And we allow ourselves to be triggered into doing what those people want us to do. So it's a form of fake authority that's
Yes.
standing in for real leadership and substance. And so what is dangerous about that, this happens in every human, is then subconsciously we're going to buy the thing that they're advertising, even if it's not the right thing for us. And the other thing that happens is it
Mhm.
activates our shame.
Yeah.
It activates our sense of inadequacy and that something's wrong with us and we need to fix ourselves. So I want us to look at that and understand that that's actually a success system
Mhm.
that people are using to sell things. And what's happening when we're doing that is we are reinforcing systems of oppression. We're literally saying, I am going to leverage thin privilege and heteronormativity and beauty privilege and white privilege and in order to position myself as an expert. And
Mhm.
therefore, people will buy my things. And I think there's a better way for us to do it. And so, what I think about that, I think it's dangerous because it's bad systemically. It's bad for the people who are consuming those messages.
Mhm.
It contributes to low self esteem, shame, so on and so forth. But it is bad for the women entrepreneurs who buy that system and
Yeah.
try to use it too, because very few of us can actually embody that thing.
Mhm.
And even if we can embody it or advertise it, we feel like imposters. We feel like we're marketing
Right.
caricatures of ourselves.
Mhm.
And we might also feel shame because we know on principle that this is not okay. And so then we can't maintain it. So that's what used to happen to me is I would have this elaborate, sales system and marketing plan, and I would rock it for 3 months, and then I would have to stop because I cannot perform that caricature
Mm.
that long. It
Mm.
takes too much energy. So I'd stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. Of course, my business never got traction. But when you can just show up with your actual authority, with your actual
Mhm.
expertise, with your actual work, that is not hard. There's no performativity there. There's no caricaturing of yourself.
Yeah.
And there's no imposturing. I honestly think this is a piece of imposter complex too, is we feel like imposters because we have to perform a caricature of ourselves. We have to perform success Barbie in order to take up
Right.
space.
Right. I love this. Thank you so much. I mean, I don't love it, but I love it. Thank you. And so many things. Mama Gina, if you know who Mama Gina
Yeah.
is, always says, the moment a woman feels shame is the moment she's cut off from her power. It's something I think about a lot. And I think about how we live in a culture that actually systemically shames women.
True. 100% true.
And it's like, yeah, and where do we do? We go in anyway. So the thing there's a couple things I feel like, and I think I've read that you have said this. So these women that you're describing so well, and yes, I can totally picture them and know
Been
them.
one, right? Like we have all been, this is
for
actually
sure.
standard.
For sure.
That's not like a weird, unusual thing that people do. This is the standard for how women position themselves to be successful.
Yes. And the first thing I think of is like, well, of course we do. It's like when we look out into the world to see how success occurs, that's what we see. We're just like following a paradigm, whether it's conscious or unconscious, of like what we think, like we want to be successful, nothing wrong with that. And then we're like, how do I be successful? And then that's what we see out there. We see, and you hear in marketing techniques, oh, establish expertise, right? These little, like, I can't think of all the little nuggets that you hear, talk about their pain points, but not just their pain points, like twist the knife, right? Yeah. And
problem agitate solution is literally a copywriting formula. Press the hell out of that pain point.
Yes.
Agitate. Create, and what are we doing then? We're leveraging someone's trauma and pain and shame. And my work is about reducing all of those things. So it's actually completely opposite to my own goals as a culture maker to do those things. So like, I can't wrap my head around, I'm going to do those things in order to end those things. No, we have to have a different method of doing this.
Right. Right. So, okay. So can you give us, is it possible that there's some broad brushstrokes, if we're seeing ourselves in this image, which we probably are, of some things that we might be doing? So like one example is twisting the knife on the pain points, shaming people. One of the things that I think of is like, well, this is the way, like, as like, I've discovered the thing and this is it. Like, this is the answer, rather than like, this might be the answer for you. It did work for me. Right. Like,
so the pain point, I have a tool here. So one of the tools, and this comes from a long history of feminist organizing, but what feminists do is they name the problem, give it an actual name. And then when you see that, then you realize the problem is not you. And what happens when you realize the problem is not you, now you can take action on it. A classic example would be mansplaining. So before I had the word mansplaining brought to me by the feminist blogosphere and by Rebecca Solnit, before I had that, I internalized all those experiences when men talked over me, when men took up my space, as I'm not authoritative enough, I'm not confident enough. There's something about me that invites people to disrespect and dehumanize me, and I need to work on that. So I internalized that as my defect. But then when the name mansplaining came up, that shame instantly dissolved. And I saw, oh, this is a problem external to me, but there are concrete things that I can do. So I got out of shame and into power. So what we do is, if you give the pattern and the problem an actual name, then people can see it's a thing and take action to evade it. So that's the first tool, is give the thing a name. The second tool is learn how to bear loving witness. So yes, name the problem, but do it in third person language so that it doesn't land in a very like intimate, activating way. Get some psychological distance from it. And then the next thing you do is when you're bearing loving witness, you're naming the problem, but the problem is not your client. So that's again why the third person language is helpful. So give it an actual name. In that section on your sales page, or whenever you're talking about it on your about page or what have you, use third person language so the reader gets some psychological distance and doesn't feel activated by it. And when you bear loving witness to it, someone can take actual action about it. But is really, really key that, and maybe you need to be this deliberate and obvious, say, it's not you. It's not you, but you can do something about it. So conventional copywriting is problem, agitate, solution, or that's one of the modules, which is like, here's the problem. You're the problem. You need to fix yourself. You better fix yourself, or you're going to remain this terrible person. And here's the solution, buy it. And so you buy to get out of that psychological identity-based pain. But when we bear loving witness, we say, yes, there's a problem. You're not off your rocker. There is an actual problem. The problem is not you. You're not defective. But yes, you can take action to evade this problem.
Yes, exactly. So, and this is something that you helped me with. So one of the things that I say that deeply resonates with people that I work with is, and what I hear from people, just to use this as a concrete example of this, I hear this, I feel skeevy about marketing. right? And so we're going to name the problem. It's actually really simple. You're not feeling good. You're actually feeling skeevy. You're so much so you'd rather not have a business. So I've heard this. I'd rather not have a business than have to market my business.
Right. And then what people think is that they hate marketing and they hate selling.
That's right. That's
But
right.
it's not marketing and selling.
Right.
What they hate are the disgusting tactics.
That's right.
So if you just get rid of those disgusting tactics that exploit and extract and trigger and activate and shame people, you can sell in a much more authentic way. You can sell differently, and then it's not skeevy. So when people say things like that to me, it's like, I feel skeevy, I don't want to market myself. I'm like, there's such a good opportunity here. The reason you feel skeevy is not because you're a bad marketer or a bad salesperson and therefore nothing can ever change. The reason you feel skeevy is because your sense of justice has been activated. And you're like, I cannot align with this practice. I would rather not do it. I would rather eat ramen for the rest of my life than sell like that.
Yep.
Excellent. So let's use your actual principles as a base.
Yes.
What can you do that you will feel good about it? Let's do that.
This is such an exciting conversation. I get really excited. So one really easy example for me. So I became certified as a coach in 2011, so 10 years ago. And I totally used, I didn't have the language for it, but the problem, agitation, solution, marketing, I was literally taught that, write the pain points, all the things. And the other thing I was taught was charge more for payment plans.
Right.
And I think back to that time because I always felt really weird about it and gross. And yet the overriding thought, like I can look back and see myself was, but this is how it's done. Like, it was almost like I didn't give myself permission to do it differently because that was how it's done. Now I have a lot of tools to question all of that, but I didn't at the time. And so, and something that you have talked about, it's like the reason why, as you just say, my sense of justice was activated is people that need payment plans don't have a lot of money.
So why are we charging them extra?
I'm punishing them. And that is so gross.
Right? It's textbook financial injustice.
Yeah.
This is like we're being the payday loans of coaching, right? And it's a problem. And so this is something I've written about a lot. Now, if it costs you extra money to run a payment plan, then 100% recoup that cost because in fact you are a business and not a nonprofit or a charity, right? Whatever costs you put out, you need to recoup or you will be eating ramen, right? So you need to recoup the costs. But the thing is we are just taught in all of these programs to just add 25%. So what we're being taught to do is incentivize people to pay in full and apply a penalty and a new profit center in our business on those payment plans. Now, there's two systemic things that are going on. So one is often the reason we're taught to incentivize people to pay in full is because women entrepreneurs only get 11% of business loans and less than something like 2.2% of all venture capital. Black women get 0.3% of all venture capital that has ever been distributed in the world. So we are massively undercapitalized. So women are building businesses out of cash flow. And so having someone pay in full makes a very big difference to our business and often allows us to front the startup costs for whatever program we're developing if someone pays in full. So there's a systemic issue that is being downloaded onto our shoulders, which we are then downloading onto our clients who are least able to pay. So that is just the replication, that is injustice flowing through us. It's not our fault, but we can choose not to pass it on. So I want to have some compassion for people who are actually doing that.
Yes, me too.
And it's not okay just to download the injustice onto someone else. Instead, let's get creative, ingenious, and use all of our resources and brilliance to do something differently. So what I do with payment plans is I actually track my numbers. How much extra time does it take me to run a payment plan? How many people default if I run a payment plan? And what are those costs? And then what I do is I build those costs into my overhead, into all of my prices. So people don't have to pay extra for a payment plan because it's built in to my pricing. When I go to a corner store and I use my bank card and someone charges me $2 extra to use my bank card, I'm always incensed by that. Build that into your prices, build that into your overhead, right? So I'm saying build this into your overhead. Know your numbers, get the money back, but build it into your overhead and spread it out across all of your prices. Or if you don't want to do that and you want to still recoup the costs, then know what your actual numbers are and charge that.
Yep.
So if it costs you 8% extra to run payment plans, that's all you should charge. It should not be a profit center.
Yeah. I completely agree. Amen. Yes. Love, 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 love. And I also want to point out something I think you say on your website, which is to your point of women entrepreneurs need cash flow.
Yes.
And so it is totally okay to say, and will you actually say what you say on your website?
Okay. So I say this on all my sales pages. I make the point that I just made. Women entrepreneurs are massively undercapitalized. We are bootstrapping out of cash flow. And so upfront payments make a huge difference, especially in the early years. Yes. I literally write that sentence out on my sales page with an asterisk below the payment button and says, and so if you can pay in full, I really appreciate it. And you are helping, this is an investment in the feminist ecosystem, and you are helping me bootstrap my business out of cash flow. So if you can afford to do it, please do that. And I'm not going to charge you extra if you can't.
Yeah, I love it.
Actually, instead of like gaming people and like incentivizing people by applying penalties for not doing what we want, we can just be direct and say, here's the reason that I need you to pay in full. If you like, just be direct about it. And people who share our values will be like, thank you for the respect. Yes, I can pay in full. And they will.
Exactly.
And those who can't don't get penalized.
Yes, exactly. I love it. And the bonus that I have discovered that, again, wasn't even an option mentally to me, at least I didn't plug into this, is payment plans are also wonderful because I have guaranteed monthly income that I can count on. And I just love that.
Okay. Anyone who's in startup phase in the first 3 years of your business, the most important thing you need to do is get to revenue stabilization. And recurring payments are game changers. It gets us out of those peaks and valleys where we make a whole bunch of money 1 month and then for 3 months don't make anything. Recurring payments are one of the best things that can happen to an early stage entrepreneur. So please don't think that like your clients are doing you a disservice by going on payment plans. They are getting you to revenue stabilization. That is the hardest thing for an entrepreneur to achieve. And there's so much talk in our entrepreneur spaces about scaling. Yeah. Scaling is easy. You just throw money at the problem and build a system that you can replicate. But the hardest thing to do is get to revenue stabilization.
That's right.
First, we want to get to revenue stabilization and then we can scale. But payment plans are revenue stabilization. They are the best thing that can happen to you.
I'm just having this huge aha moment because I love how you're talking about revenue stabilization. So in all my training and all my business trainings, and I have thrown a lot of money at different trainings because trust me, I fell for the pain point twisting. I've just spent a lot of money and I never heard that term revenue stable. What I heard was how to get a 10K month. Right. How, or, you know, sometimes it's like how to get 6 figures, how to get to 6 figures. And what I can tell, and again, it's so interesting because I can really tap into how I felt, which was uncomfortable, but did not have language as to why. And now the language I can give you is like, I don't care about a 10K month. I need to pay my bills every month. That's actually what I care about. I mean, it's like, yes, 10K months, great. But that it was like this weird financial carrot that was very sexy, right? 10K a month. It's like this thing that we all want, or the 6 figures, and it's not attached to anything. It's not grounded in anything.
Well, in those 10K months, we can make them and still have no profit or even be in the hole.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? The 2 things I want to think about are revenue stability and profit.
Thank you. Yeah.
Those are the things I want to think about. And then I'll start thinking about scale.
Right. Another thing
I actually think those, like, there's a little bit of pushback, and it's healthy and it's corrective against all the advertising around like 6-figure businesses and 7-figure businesses. I think it is really important for women entrepreneurs to get to 6 figures, because when you are earning top line 6 figures, probably you're bringing home $60,000 to $70,000 a year. $70,000 a year is what we need to have like healthy living wages where all of our needs are met. So that's an important number for us to hit and to build systems that produce that. I don't want to slag the 10K months because I actually think we need to get to those 10K months. Oh, no, just you were. I'm
yeah,
not trying to shame
yeah.
you.
Yeah,
Right?
no, I agree that. I just was talking about the way they marketed the business. So I agree. Let's make, as you say, wealth. Let's have wealth.
Yeah.
But please proceed. I'm sorry. I know.
Yeah. Well, and also the 7-figure business. Only 2% of women entrepreneurs ever crack $1 million in sales. And when you are earning $1 million in top line revenue, you are not bringing $1 million home. But what is happening at $1 million in revenue is you are able to pay people on your team living wages.
That's right.
You are able to invest in systems and even leisure time so that you are not working 80 hours a week. So I actually think it's really important, especially when we're building feminist businesses with feminist practices baked into the businesses, to hit those 6 figures and 7-figure numbers. And I don't want to shame us and make us think like we are capitalist money grubbers for trying to hit those goals.
Correct. Thank you. I completely agree with you. And thank you. I mean, something I say is like, I think the money needs to be in our hands, actually, because we've proven we can do better with it. So yeah,
not everyone.
I know. I'm painting in broad brush strokes.
Broad strokes.
Yes. Yeah.
I have a story here, Elijah. I was engaged in a 12-year child custody battle.
Yeah.
And I could not get out of that, off that hamster wheel. And basically the threat of losing my children and having to go to court kept me in a place where I wasn't even asking for child support, because I just like needed to stay off of that treadmill. And it wasn't until I had the financial resources in my business to hire a shark of a lawyer that came to an end. And that was only 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that came to an end. 12-year child custody, but I didn't get child support for 12 years when I needed it most. Now I don't even need it. But it wasn't just the child support. It was access. It was about who's making decisions. It was about not abusing someone by text message. It was about not blowing someone's phone up and yelling at them. It was about all of those things. And none of that came to an end until I had the resources to spend $30,000 on a lawyer and get it to end.
Right.
So it is really important that we have the resources to protect ourselves. I also support an elderly woman in my family, right, who has no resources. So we've got to be able to take care of our own.
That's right.
And she has no resources because she spent her entire life raising children and grandchildren and taking care of us. And then in her elder years, nobody was there for her.
Right.
I don't want that to be me.
Right.
And I also want to be able to take care of my community and my family members. So money is not just about having Gucci loafers, but like, God bless if you want them. Have a soft life, have a beautiful life. It is also about being safe in a system where there is no social safety net.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you. In a system that has no safety net, and then that just we're gonna start wrapping up here. I'll just say, because I'm looking at the time, but I'm like, oh, I could keep going, because it's like, because the system, the tendrils of the patriarchy, oppression, white supremacy, transphobia, homophobia, fat phobia, they are so nuanced and so layered in every level of everything that it's hard to unpack sometimes. And so what you just described, I felt like hit so many different layers of like, why we need to be okay with making money, and a lot of it.
I also want to talk about why we're scared to make money.
Okay.
And it's because we think that money is fundamentally evil.
Yes.
Because many of us have had experiences where money has been used against us or held over us to make us do things we didn't want to do. And because one of our formative experiences, when you have a non-dominant identity, one of our formative experiences with money and power is that it gets used against us, that it gets used abusively. And so also there's conditioning to keep us away from money and power, because if we had money and power, we wouldn't be exploitable. So there's social conditioning that makes it like we shouldn't have it.
Yes.
So when we try to then explicitly build money and build power, all of our visceral social conditioning kicks in to try and get us to back away from it. So we might have explicit money beliefs that money is evil and power will be used against us, and so avoid cultivating it. Plus, our social conditioning reinforces those things. So in order for us to embrace money and embrace power and be good stewards of it, and use it fairly and equitably, we actually have to confront that conditioning and unravel it. And it is deep and it is visceral. It's like a needle dropping into a groove. It is automatic.
Yeah.
So we have to surface it, and we can't necessarily do it by ourselves. We do it by talking to each other like this and giving each other permission. And literally, I say this all the time, literally telling each other, I trust you with money. I trust you with power.
Yes. I trust you with money and power. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Elijah.
Oh my gosh. Before we go, or as we wrap up, Kelly, I wonder if there's something you really want solopreneurs that are listening to this to know that they can do today, like 1 or 2 things that they can do today to start baking justice into their business.
I would look at your payment plans.
Yeah.
I would run your actual numbers and make a decision to either bake it into your overhead or only recoup the actual costs. That would be the first thing. The second thing, I would look at your visuals. Are you only featuring thin people in your visuals? Are you only featuring white people if you're a white person? Are you only featuring people who are heteronormative? Like, what do your visuals say? And figure out how to add some friction into your visuals and figure out how you can show up more and take up space, right? Those channels are your channels. It's important that you take up space in them. So those would be the things I would look at immediately, would be payment plans and your visuals. And I mean, there's a whole laundry list on my website. I have a whole list of feminist marketing tools that you can download. But those would be the first 2 places that I would start. And then the other place I would start would be by understanding just how much power you have. You have the ability to create institutional justice by deciding your own policies and practices. So get really excited about that. You are making a difference in the smallest policies that you decide in your business. Justice doesn't have to be expensive or hard. It can be daily and small. And we actually have the power to make a big difference. So I'm super excited about everyone who is baking justice into those small daily actions, because that is how change adds up. So I just want you really to know how much influence and power you have.
Thank you so much. And that is absolutely why I believe how we do business can make a difference in our social world, and business can be activism. So thank you. You summed it up beautifully for me.
Thank you, Elijah. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll have notes in the podcast notes, where to see you, where to find you, and all the good information so that they can take part in the amazing programs that you offer, that I can speak personally and say will change how you do business and how your life is. So thank
Elijah,
you.
That brought something up for me. Can I just add one thing? So
of course.
You said, like, what are things that entrepreneurs can do to start baking justice in? So the other thing you can do is make the ask, because you are conditioned not to make the ask. You're not supposed to have
That's
money.
right.
You're not supposed to have power. Make the ask. And so I'm going to make an ask right now as well.
Yes.
My ask is that if people resonate with this message, if they think there's something here for them to learn and embody, that they could sign up to my Sunday love letter.
Yes.
Because I send out words of encouragement and practical marketing and business tips every week on Sundays. And it's honestly one of the prides of my life. I really put my heart and soul into that love letter.
It is amazing. I receive it. I've received it for years, and it has absolutely 100% made a difference in my life and my business. So yes, I highly recommend signing up for that. I'm inspired. I get so much inspiration and, frankly, just knowledge because of the way your mind works. I mean, you're such a scholar, and I just gets me excited. So thank you.
And thank you to everyone who's been listening to us for this conversation. Your attention is truly a gift.
Yes. Thank you so much. All right.